Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recaps. So, before we get into anything, I understand this video is coming out a lot later than it was supposed to. My initial plan was to make it the first week of October, do it like all early, but here we are in the third week of October, so things went wrong. And it's mainly because of school. I'm in my final semester of college, and just having like school in the back of your mind like 24/7 sucks royally, because I have to think about, like assignments and exams, what's due, what's coming up, what's to study. It's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. And as a result, I have to put like videos like on the back burner many times. That's why my summer recap videos came out so late. So, yeah, that's my explanation as to why this particular recap video has come out later than I wanted it to. But anywho, September. My God, September. It was a month to forget. It was a month to never think about ever again. Because the box office depression that started in August continued pretty much the whole month of September. And it was particularly bad the first two weekends. And it did improve after that. But overall, it was weak. Very weak. There's only like a few movies here that I think really shined. And everything else either did okay or did terrible. And when compared to last year, I mean, sure, last year wasn't great either. We had like one major hit and a bunch of bombs. But that one major hit was Shang-Chi, and that made like 200 million plus domestic. The first of the pandemic to do so. Nothing this year even came close to that. Not even halfway. So, yeah, that's a problem. That's a big problem. It's like they kind of just gave up on September, like really, like early on. Like they just kind of threw it out, like, whatever, who cares? Which is what, September, yeah, it was kind of a dump month for a while, but like some movies changed that. Like the It 2017, that changed everything. And one would think, you want to make September more of a big deal, but this year that just did not happen. Granted, like a movie, Salem's Lot was supposed to come out in September, but it got pushed back to, well, TBA or TBD, to be announced, because that movie's in the ether right now. So yeah, September was screwed, but it wasn't all although it wasn't all negative, there was still a lot of bombs to talk about. So let's get to it. So as usual, I'm going to be comparing my own personal predictions to what actually happened, because I find that to be interesting and fun. So let's go. First week of September, September 2nd. Ugh. So, just for backstory. So, August 26th, you had like the Invitation, which, although it did better than I expected, that still opened with like 6.8 million. And it was number one. That is a sign of disaster. And after that, there was expectations were rock bottom for the first weekend of September. And with pretty much all the movies, none of them really did all that well at all. But we have to go through these in order. So first off, Gigi and Nate. Why was this theatrical? Please, someone answer that question for me. I don't know. I don't understand why. Like, this is something you're going to be hearing from me pretty much the whole video. Like, why was this theatrical? Why did this have to be in theaters? Why? I don't understand. You're just wasting money at that point. But with Gigi and Nate, my original prediction, it was between like, I don't remember exactly. I think it was 750,000 to like $1 million, as far as I know, opening weekend, and it did reach that. Well, it got close with like 900 and 90,000, and its total was like a little over 2 million, which I think that's where I thought it would land. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, this is an abysmal number, obviously. Like, after its first weekend, it just fell off the face of the earth. I mean, like, it's not unsurprising because no one knew this movie existed. I didn't know this movie existed. It had no marketing, no nothing. It just came out and that was it. So, which is a theme you're going to be seeing a lot in this video. But yeah, nothing really else to say. It bombed, it died. That's it. So, yeah, we're off to a great start, as you can already tell. Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. This is more serious. Okay. So this is one of those Peacock movies that's come out this year. Like Universal or Focus Features. Well, Focus Features is a division within Universal. But they're like the only studio that's still going with the streaming, like day and date streaming thing. Like all the others have dropped out. Paramount, Warner Brothers, Disney, they're the only ones still doing it for some ungodly reason. And it has not been working out, not one bit. And this is the latest example of that. My prediction, I think I predicted it open between like 1 to 2 million opening weekend, like 2.5 for like the 4-day because it was a holiday. It'll make like 5 million total. It made 2.5 million total. So it didn't even make half of my prediction. And its opening weekend did hit between that 1 to 2 million mark, 1.4, which is still absolutely atrocious under like any like any context. And its second weekend, my god, 73% dip. Fuck. There's nothing positive I can say about that. It just was brutally front loaded, and that was it. Can't say I was surprised. I mean, like, the audience score for this was like pretty abysmal. I think its cinema score was like a C minus, which is way below average. And like, so I think overall the audience response was really bad. I think the Peacock simultaneous release on that was a mistake. And yeah, like, I don't have that much to say, but it was an embarrassment. I initially thought, like a couple weeks before it came out, I was thinking maybe this will be the number one movie of the weekend. As far as I know, it didn't even reach the top 10. Oh, that is just, there's nothing else to say. It's a bomb. It's a bomb and a half. But it's not the worst performing movie here, but it still did really terrible. Just absolutely horrendous. Next up, we got a couple re-releases because September was so desperate for new releases, they resorted to re-releasing old ones. So first off, we got Jaws. One of the most iconic movies of all time. One of Steven Spielberg's most iconic movies of all time, next to like E.T. and Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones. But this was it. This was like the original summer blockbuster. This was the OG blockbuster. And even before this came like 2 years before Star Wars. So it is the OG. And my prediction, I predicted it would open between the same level as Honk for Jesus, like 1 to 2 million for the 3-day, 2.5 for the 4-day, and then like 3, 4, 5 million total. It's with these re-releases, it's kind of hard to see where these movies. Yet, I can't just separate the number from the actual total. I kind of have to do some math in order to do it. So yeah, it's kind of annoying. But it did open with 2.6 million for the 3-day weekend, which is better than what I expected. So, yay. And I think it made like over 3 million domestic. Yeah, 3 million for the 4-day. So, I mean, that's good, I guess. I mean, it's not like terrible. Could have been worse, but it could have been better too. But Jaws has been available for decades. Like anyone who, if the, like it's been available through like VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, freaking streaming, uh, just anywhere at this point. So there was really no reason to watch Jaws on the big screen again, but some people really wanted to do it, and they did it. As you can see here, it fell off hard as well. 75% dip, which doesn't surprise me because like these re-releases tend to be very much pump and dump movies where they make all their money one weekend and then no money the next. And yeah, that's what happened here. 75% dip, 65% dip, yeah. Yeah, not surprising. But it did make, I'm gonna guess, I'm not sure exactly. I'm gonna say like 5-ish million, close to that. So it reached my expectations, my low expectations. So I'm satisfied about that. So, but yeah, that's the Jaws re-release. Nothing else to say about it. It came out. It made a couple extra dollars, and that's it. Now the big one here, No Way Home, the more fun stuff edition. This re-release was basically, it feels like this was intentional from Sony. They were just like, okay, No Way Home made us a shit ton of money, but it didn't make us $2 billion. They were so frustratingly short of 2 billion. They were thinking, okay, this re-release, this has to do it. We want to reach 2 billion. And did they reach 2 billion? No, they did not. They did not. They didn't reach that goal. But going through here, I have to scroll all the way down. Here we go. I predicted it would open between, I think it was like 3 to 5 million for the 3-day, like 6 for like the 4-day, and like 10 to 15 for the 10 to 15 for the its total. It did reach 5.4 million for its re-release weekend. It was initially number 1 when it came to estimates, but when like the final numbers came out, it was actually beaten by both Bullet Train and Top Gun Maverick. So Sony definitely they overshot with that. But it did reach my expectations, at least opening weekend, and then after that, it's just bad. Felt 75% again, then 83, then 82, and it was gone. So it made like less than 10 million total from this re-release. So it makes you just ask, like, was it worth it? Was it worth it? I mean, I get No Way Home is a fantastic movie, like my second favorite MCU movie of all time, maybe my second favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. But I don't know, and sure, like this re-release is a little more justified than others because you actually get, more stuff, never before seen content in it. But so I don't know if it was worth it or not. I don't think it was. But Sony, they decided to do it, make a little extra cash, and they definitely did that, but I'm pretty sure they were expecting a whole lot more than this. So, yeah, I can't really call it a disappointment. How can you call a movie that's made nearly $2 billion a disappointment? Like, come on now. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure Sony was expecting a bit more from the movie that basically brought the blockbuster back to life completely when it came out like last December. So, yeah, that's the No Way Home re-release. And I might as well mention, actually, yeah, I might as well mention this weekend again because this weekend had National Cinema Day. That was like the third, that Saturday. And what a lot of theaters did was tickets would be on sale for like $3. So for $3, you can watch anything, which is way less costly than how tickets usually are. They can be upwards like $10, $15. Unless you go to a matinee, in that case you get it cheap. But yeah, like for $3 a ticket, that's a steal, an absolute steal. And I'd like to show you because I was initially kind of skeptical on it. I was like, oh, that may not work too great, but no, it worked out fantastic. Look at these jumps for like all these movies, or majority of these movies. They all experience massive leaps in their box office because of that $3 National Cinema Day. And apparently, like around over like 8.1 million people showed up for Labor Day weekend, which was actually more people than last year, believe it or not. Sure, the box office was much worse, but at least more people showed up. I mean, that's positive. I mean, that's proof positive that people will show up to the movies, but they definitely showed up because things were cheap, not because things were interesting. So, yeah. Yeah, just want to mention that because the day was technically a success, even if the box office was rock bottom. So I don't know if they're gonna do it again on like this level. Not sure, but at least it wasn't a failure. Can't call it a failure if a ton of people show up. But that was the first weekend of September. Then this next week happened, and this was technically rock bottom. It was like the worst weekend of the year since January, mainly because a lot of movies after Labor Day weekend, they all take a tumble. Especially, and that especially happened because of National Cinema Day, which brought a lot of people to the theater thanks to that $3 discount. The next weekend you don't have that discount, so no one's gonna show up. But people did show up for one movie that I didn't expect to happen, and that was Barbarian. The first winner of the month, the first undisputed winner. Because with Barbarian, it's interesting. Like from like the trailer I saw in front of, I think it was Black Phone. I think. I don't remember. But the trailer I saw, it just looked, it didn't look like anything special. It looked like a dump month movie you'd see like in January or February. And I'm just like, it just didn't look all that good. Then it had like a last minute date change to like September 9th because Salem's Lot left. And I was thinking, like, this movie's gonna tank. It's gonna tank hard. It feels like Disney or 20th Century Studio Disney. They don't care. That's what it looked like initially. I was like, why isn't this on Hulu? Like, why is Prey on Hulu and this isn't? Right? That was my initial thought process. But then, like the week of release, I saw these reviews saying like, "Oh, this is good. This is fantastic. This is great." And I was like, "Huh?" Like it was so weird and unexpected. And then I predicted. I mean, my initial prediction was like $5 million. Like no more than that for its opening weekend, and its total would be like. But that was my initial prediction. Then it's like Thursday previews came out, like 850,000. I'm like, that's better than I expected. But I don't think it's gonna do super great. It's gonna open with like 7 to 9 million, make like 20 million total. That's not what happened. No, ended up making over 10 million that weekend, 10.5, something I didn't expect to happen at all. I seriously doubted it was gonna do double digits, but it did, and not that many theaters too. Like 2,300. That's not a great amount of theaters. From a movie coming from like a big ish, from a big studio movie. But the crazy part hasn't even like after the opening weekend, I was like, okay, this is good. But then the next weekend, it felt like 38%. I was like, okay, this is. It already shot past my 20 million prediction, and these holds have been really, really good. Hasn't even dropped. It has dropped past 50 million once, and now it's reached 39 million as of the 19th of October. So it's gonna double my final prediction tally of 20 million, which is great. This is like whenever I get stuff wrong, I always want it to be in the way where I underestimate something, and I don't, instead of like me overestimating something, because when that happens, it's real embarrassing. I've done that several times, and I never get the bad taste out of my mouth. How I overestimated Lightyear and In the Heights. Ugh. So I'm very glad when it's the opposite, where I think a movie isn't going to do all that good and it does really well, which is what happened with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I want more stuff like that to happen because it's more positive. But yeah, with Barbarian, I feel like I don't know what happened. I guess it benefited from good old organic word of mouth. People who saw it and were like, wow, this is really good. And then it becomes like this water cooler talk type movie where more people are convinced to watch it, and more people watch it, and it makes more money. And I feel like that's what's happened here. Like the marketing, like it just initially it just looked really bad, but or just like completely forgettable. But it seems like Disney were able to pull like a 180 at the last minute, with this, and as a result, they had a nice little hit. Literally, the only 20th Century Studios movie to do well this year so far. Avatar 2 hasn't come out yet, and the movie only cost like $4.5 million. So this movie's an absolute success. And I didn't watch it in theaters, but I imagine this is going to be on Hulu within like the next month or so, and I'll definitely watch it then because I am convinced to watch it now because I've heard really good things about it. So, congratulations, Barbarian! You're the first W of September. Congrats. So next up, we got this movie I can't pronounce to save my life. Brahmastria Part 1 Shiva, a Bollywood or Tollywood, whatever you want to call it, movie. And these Bollywood movies, Tollywood, whatever. I'm going to call them Bollywood movies. Bollywood movies, they're very niche. Like, obviously, it's a very niche demographic of people who watch the movie, like in the States. What usually happens is that they have a decent enough opening and they just crash and burn right afterwards. They're brutally front loaded. It's the same case for like anime movies, and as you see with like re-releases too. Like they do well one week and fall off the next. That's usually how this works, and that's what happened here. But Brahmastria, it opened pretty good. I think my prediction was like 3 to 5 million, and it hit that 4.5 million opening weekend because there was only like 800 theaters. That's pretty good. It only made like 7.8 million total, which isn't surprising. I mean, this dropped 76%, just fell off the face of the earth. Doesn't surprise me at all. This is usually how like Bollywood movies play out. I think the RRR, Triple R, that came out earlier this year. I didn't cover that because that technically wasn't a wide release, but that had a similar story of decent opening weekend and it crumbled after that. But I heard RRR is a really, really, really good movie. But yeah, Brahmastria Part 1 Shiva. I mean, I guess it did well for what it is. It did good enough. It didn't embarrass itself. It got a nice little headline, doing well. Its opening weekend. Yeah, so sure it didn't I think yeah, I did predict it wasn't going to make 10 million and it sure didn't. So it lived up to my expectations, so I'm satisfied about that. So, and technically this is from Disney too. It's like another division within Disney. Foxstar India. So this technically Disney dominated the second weekend of September, which I still wouldn't brag about because that was I think the second worst weekend of the whole year. So, yikes. Then there's Lifemark and Medieval. I didn't cover them, so there's no point in me talking about them. No point in me talking about Clerks 3 either. So we're going to move right along to September 16th. 5 movies came out this one weekend. It was a nightmare. for me. I always hate it when I have to deal with like three, four, five movies in one weekend. It's exhausting. It exhausts my voice. It's not fun. But we have to go through all these because, as you can see here with these box office results, only one movie stands out compared to the rest. So we're gonna have to go through these pretty quickly. Um, First we have God's Country. This is just another one of those movies where I'm just like, why? Why release this in theaters? Why? What's the point? Why do this? And my prediction, I think it was, I don't even remember. I'm really trying. I'm struggling to remember. I think it was between like 500 and a thousand. No, 500,000 and $1 million. I think. I don't remember. And I think it was supposed to be like 2, 3 million. That's the best I can think of. It didn't come close to that at all. It made like 279,000. So it really just didn't even. It was non-existent. And then it just fell off completely. 83% dip. My God, like second weekend declines in the 70 to 80 range. That seems to be a theme for September. And yeah, I didn't expect it to do well because one, no one ever heard of it before it came out. I especially didn't hear about it until like a day or two before it came out. And I think like the synopsis, like when I hear like when it comes to like box office stuff, when you hear the words like racism, sexism, toxic masculinity, you are asking for trouble. Those are the type of things people don't want to watch ever. Like, that's just a fact. They're immediate turnoffs for a lot of people, including me. So, yeah, I'm not surprised this did as bad as it did. Like, it was kind of asking for it. So that's God's Country. Next up is Pearl, the prequel to X, which came out earlier this year. Now, Pearl, considering like A24 has had quite the year, quite the eventful year. They've had their biggest movie ever in the form of Everything Ever All at Once. But besides that, it hasn't been like booming all that much. I mean, X did all right, made like what 10 plus million domestic. They had Bodies, Bodies, Bodies did the same thing, and but Men kind of flopped. So Pearl, my expectations weren't high. I didn't think it would make as much as X, and it didn't. It opened with like 3 million, which I did predict it would open to like 3 to 4 million, so it hit that. And I think my final total was like 8 to 9 million, and it did hit that too. So it lived up to my expectations. It didn't live up to X, but these movies are like stupid cheap, so I don't think no one's losing money on this. And there's another movie in development. I think it's called Maxine. So this is clearly like a mini franchise for A24. So nothing really else to say. I mean, it did okay-ish, but I don't know. Just it did okay-ish. That's really all I can say. So moving on, running the bases. I goofed real hard on this. My initial prediction was like 1 to 2 million. My thought process was, well, this is a faith-based movie. Faith-based movies can do really well. They've done well in the past. They can surprise. They can exceed expectations. I wasn't expecting anything massive from this, but I thought it would make 1 to 2 million opening weekend. At least hit that. It made 538,000. And then its total, I think it was like 5 million. It made like 1.4. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I goofed. I really goofed in a bad way here. And I guess this is more evidence that faith-based movies, they are impossible to predict. You never know, what will happen. Sometimes they knock it out of the park. They go sicko mode, and then others just die day one. They don't even stand a chance. And this was one of those movies that didn't stand a chance. But at least if only fell like 55%, it avoided the 70-80 range. So good for it. But yeah, clearly, as you can see, it did not have a long life. So yeah, I'm not super surprised because again, faith-based movies are notoriously difficult to predict. I always, I always dread predicting movies like this because I'm usually wrong. So yeah, that's running the bases. Now see how they run. I lowballed this movie quite a bit, but that doesn't mean it was a hit. I was expect I was expecting next to nothing from this. I mean, sure, it was like a mystery, a whodunit mystery movie, and those have done well. Recently, movies like Knives Out and Murder on the Orient Express. But with this, I mean, the star power was. I mean, there are some notable names, but nothing that makes you want to rush to the theater. And the fact it was coming out on like a super crowded opening weekend, I was like, this movie's gonna stand no chance. And I predicted it would open between like 1 to 2 million, and I don't know, like 5-ish million total, something like around that range. It did beat that. It made 3 million opening weekend, and it made over 9 million total. Which I mean, good for it. You exceeded my rock bottom expectations, but that literally means nothing. I mean, if it had a good second weekend, 36% dip, and then after that, well, it was over. So, I mean, this isn't hard to explain why this movie didn't do well. Came out on a crowded opening weekend. Reviews were like meh. Star power was meh. And just no one really cared. Simple as that. No one really cared. And the results show that. So while it exceeded my expectations, it's nowhere near a winner in my book. It's still a loser. Except it's not as big of a loser as I thought it would be. So, yeah. And now for the one movie everyone cared about that came out on the 16th, Woman King. So this is a I bet you've all been hearing about this movie the last few weeks online. Ever since like it came out, the controversy. I'll give you the cliff notes of it. Basically, the Woman King, like the story about it is in the movie is not what happened in real life, because like in real life, from what I've read, is that the Okoye, this the all female, African, unit of warriors, it's led by Viola Davis's character. Apparently, they were for slavery, and that looks really, really bad when the movie says something else, and there's this big old controversy. There was like this boycott Woman King trending on Twitter. Had no clue how effective that really was. There's no way to prove that because there's no like hard data or evidence. But yeah, there's a whole big controversy surrounding this movie. And its box office. Like I was looking at the reviews, I was looking at the audience score because the audience score was downright spectacular. It got like an A+, so it really appealed to its core audience. So I was thinking, okay, this movie could really shine because my God, did the box office need a savior at that moment. So I predicted it would open between like in the mid 20s, like say 20 to 25 million, around the same level as like other movies like The Town. I think the movies I mentioned were The Town, Prisoners, Contagion, Black Mass, movies like those. It didn't quite reach it. It tried, but it fell a little short. It opened with like 19 million, so frustratingly close to 20. It just couldn't make it. And it's had good legs so far, 42%, 38, 24, 28. I mean, that's good. I mean, that's good legs, not spectacular legs, but decent enough. And it's hit over 60 million right now. I don't expect it to go that much further, so I don't think it's going to reach the 70-80 range I initially thought, which has to sting a little bit for Sony, but this isn't like a terrible tally. This isn't like a terrible run. It's just merely okay. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's okay. That's literally the best way I can describe its box office. It's okay. It could have done better, but it's not an embarrassment either. And when it comes to like personally the whole like based on a true story, inspired by true events, that whole thing, but this movie not being accurate, I was thinking, what true story movie has ever been 100% accurate? They change things all the time. Like they remove stuff, they add stuff, they change certain aspects of it so it could be more like movie-esque or it could be more audience friendly. This has happened forever. So I don't understand why it's a big deal now. I mean, people were complaining about like Blonde, like on Netflix, about the Marilyn Monroe, how this isn't accurate at all. And I'm just like, this is like a biopic movie. Like, what are you expecting? You can't. Not. This is never 100% accurate ever. And if the amount of like super accurate movies is probably, you could probably name them all on one hand. But yeah. So that's The Woman King. It did okay. Nothing more to say. It's just fine. But it did kind of stop the bleeding of the box office. Kinda. So it did that. So good job, Woman King. You did that. So that was the 16th. And then we move right along to the 23rd. The Avatar re-release. So the whole point of this re-release was the sequel's coming out in December. Avatar: The Way of Water. We all know that. And so this is basically Disney's way to, you know, make some extra cash with Avatar and basically refresh people's memory of Avatar before they watch the sequel, because that's a 13-year gap between Avatar 1 and Avatar 2. That's a long time. Just think about how much has happened in those 13 years. Right? It feels like a lifetime ago. So naturally you want people to remember that Avatar exists. And so that was the whole point of this re-release, and to make some extra cash. And to make sure it made money, they removed it from Disney Plus, but only for a limited time, because apparently they're going to put it back on there later. Some call that scummy, but I mean, you've had like over a decade to watch Avatar in multiple ways. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly. And like, there's this whole thing about, oh, Avatar is not even that good. I'm just like, well, why do you care? Why is this so? Why do you care so much about not being on Disney Plus? Isn't there like all this like negative talk about it? I don't even like the movie. So yeah. So the re-release happened. I really lowballed it. I had no faith in it. I thought it would open like 3-ish million and make like 10 million total. I was thinking I don't expect this to do any better than the No Way Home re-release. Well, this movie proved me wrong, because like my initial thought process was, do people really want to watch Avatar again on the big screen when they can literally just watch it at home in multiple different ways? Just like my argument with Jaws. Like, especially when this is seen as like overrated and it's just not all that good. Like the only big positive were the effects, the 3D. That was the really the only reason why people watched it in the first place, because the story and characters were seriously lacking. And yeah, this was basically just a visual showcase movie. And I was thinking, do people want to watch it again? Turns out they do want to watch it again. Because I'm about to show you here. Here we go. So 3 million I predicted, made 10.5. Boy, that made me look like a clown. So it literally beat my entire prediction. It's one weekend. and it only felt like 52% the next and 46% the next. So yeah, it's. I mean, looking, I have to scroll down because the original movie when it came out, it was out for so damn long. But here it is. Here it is right here. Yeah, it really like it made like 23 no 25 million roughly through the course of this re-release. So that's definitely a success in my book. I mean, Disney's plan worked. People were willing to watch this movie again with like now that in a prettier format with like 4K and whatnot. So the plan worked. And but does this mean Avatar 2 will do great? I don't know. The jury's still out on that. We won't find out until it comes out. And I will definitely be there to watch his performance. I'll make my prediction video. We'll talk all about that come December 16th. All right. But for this re-release, it worked out. It worked out really well, for Disney. So this is another W for our second real W of the month, because Woman King, that's in murky ground. But the Avatar re-release I consider to be a win. Plus it's made some extra cash, like 2.9 billion now. I don't think it's gonna reach 3. that's not gonna happen unless they re-release it again in like a decade or so. So next up, oh boy, the big movie of the weekend. Don't worry, darling. A movie that has been just like a tabloid's dream. Just a lot of conflict and controversy and drama surrounding the movie with like Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh. They had like a little spat. There was the conspiracy that Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine. There is the whole Shia LaBeouf thing where he was initially in the movie, and then there were like initial reports where he was fired, but he said, "No, I wasn't. You wanted me to leave the movie. You wanted me to like walk away." This is a hot mess, a complete circus, and it was going to be coming out, at a time where like Warner Brothers, they were really not doing good. The whole Warner Brothers Discovery merger had a lot of casualties, a lot of movies getting canceled, a lot of movies and shows being just yeeted from the streaming service and basically deleted from the Digiverse. It was bad times. It still is kind of bad times, but it was especially bad around this time. And with its opening weekend, I was thinking, all right, obviously there's all this talk, all this PR, which one would label that as a good thing. Some people always say, all publicity is good publicity. That's a bunch of bullshit. In my opinion, there's so many examples where it is detrimental or it can straight up kill a project before it even comes out. But with this, I was thinking maybe it might be good. Maybe. So I predicted between like 20 and 30, pretty wide range for its opening weekend. Its total would be like 50 to 60 million. I thought it would do solid enough, right? And then I see it's a preview number 3.1. I'm like, okay, that's good. And then Friday 9.4. And then it fell 39% the next day, which is horrific. And it felt like 29% that Sunday, but it literally lost over half of its box office within its first weekend. Within the first 3 days, it was just gone. And it fell short of 20 million, only made like 19.3. And when it comes to its opening weekend, it was just brutally front-loaded. One of the more front-loaded opening weekends I've ever seen. I mean, looking at this, there it is. 48.9% was from Friday. Nearly half. That's horrible. That is atrocious. That's worse than Doctor Strange 2 and Thor Love and Thunder. And like, obviously you would expect those movies to be front-loaded because they're Marvel movies. And that's even worse than like Jujutsu Kaisen 0. That's anime. That's historically front-loaded. But don't worry, darling. Well, the reason for its front loadedness is very easy. Harry Styles. Dude has a massive fan base, a lot of stands, if you will. So they were going to watch the movie day one just to see him. And that's it. They were gone after that. It didn't help that the movie was very much not good. So that was another big problem. And then its second weekend, it fell 65%. And I was like, well, it's game over. it stopped the bleeding a little bit, but still, it's not good. Oh, it's only made like 43 million so far. I don't expect. There's no chance in hell it's reaching 50 at its current rate. That's a pipe dream. So it won't reach my initial final prediction. So yeah, that's really not good at all. So was all the PR worth it? Was all the was it all worth it? No, it was not. Didn't work out. And yeah. I mean, at least the movie wasn't like stupid expensive. I think it cost within like the realm of like 30 to 40 million, I think. So it's not like a big loss for Warner Brothers, but you know they were expecting a whole lot more from this movie. But yeah, yeah. So this is another bad moment for Warner Brothers because they apparently don't have enough of those this year. So yeah, nothing else to say about Don't Worry Darling, but didn't work out and it was just a PR nightmare. So yeah, that was that. On the come up, Jesus Christ. Okay. This was like a last minute release. It was supposed to be Paramount Plus only. Then they were at the last second, they were like, okay, let's make a theatrical release, 600 theaters. And I'm like, really? Like, come on, man. Like, why? Why? For what? I get you did this with Orphan First Kill, but come on, man. So I predicted it open with like $1 million, make 3 million total. You want to know how much it made? 150,000. When it comes to like percentage wise, this is one of my worst predictions ever. And it made like 236 million. So definitely one of my worst predictions of all time. So that's fantastic. That just feels great. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, making this a last minute theatrical release was dumb. It made no sense. Just release it on Paramount Plus. I imagine more people saw it there anyway. So why I have nothing else to say about this. This release shouldn't have happened. That's all I'm gonna say. The next up, Moon Age Daydream, the David Bowie uh documentary. It's a documentary, right? Yeah, or biography. Whatever. So my prediction, I think I predicted between like 1 to 2 million, and it hit that. It made like 1.2, and I thought it would make like 6 million. I thought it would have like longish legs. It kind of didn't. Well, like, oh wait, no, that's not what happened. That was its limited run. It opened like 170 theaters and it made 1.2 million. And I thought it would make another million and it didn't quite hit that. It made like 900,000. And then it just fell off after that, only making 4 million total. So yeah, it actually didn't even reach my predictions, but I mean, it's not a massive deal, really. I mean, I think this is going to be on HBO Max. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it will be. So I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's a huge loss. It's kind of just whatever. So not much else to really say here about Moon Age Daydream. We're almost done. Okay, it's almost over. We have one more weekend to cover. It was like the last day of September. Here we go. Okay, our final three. Bros. Oof. Yikes. Wow. Oof. In terms of, I guess, PR wise, in terms of like success, this is the biggest bomb of the month. easily. Like all the other movies, they stood no chance because no one knew they existed. They had no real support. This did have support. This was from a major studio, and as a result, it looks a whole lot worse. Now, my prediction video, I predicted it will open between like 6 to 7 million, made 20 million total. I was not expecting much of anything, and it didn't even reach that. It made like 4.8 million opening weekend, which I was like, geez, that is bad. And things have not gotten much better. Fell over 50% both weekends, so I imagine it'll be out the door of theaters in like a few weeks' time. So, and it's only made like 11 million total. So, sure, it's not a super expensive movie. It only costs like 22 million, but this is still pretty abysmal. Another L for Universal. They've had the weirdest year, I swear. Like on one side they have Jurassic World Dominion, they have Minions 2, they have Black Phone, they have Us. Not Nope. They had Nope. All do really bad guys. They all do really well. Then on the opposite side, you have 355, you have Marry Me, you have Ambulance, you have Easter Sunday, now you have this. Like, what's going on? It's so lopsided. Well, not even lopsided. It's so inconsistent. But yeah, the failure of this movie, it's pretty easy to explain. You know, one of the things I mentioned in my original prediction video was like, sure, with a movie like this, LGBT, Q plus audiences, they might show up, but what about everybody else? Right? Like, what about, you know, the all the non-straights show up, but what about the straights? How do you appeal to them? That's what you need to do. Really, the same logic, I used this in the original prediction video. The same logic applies to like video game movies. Like you have the fans of the video games and then the people who aren't fans of the video games. The goal is to appeal to both. You appeal to people who play the games and who don't play the games, you print money. So the same logic can apply here. You gotta appeal to straights and non-straights. And this movie clearly failed at that goal. Because like with a movie like this movie it was kind of asking for its failure when you really think about it, when you really analyze it. Cuz like the genre I think was the biggest problem is the rom-coms. They have not been popular in theaters in a long time. This, they're mainly on streaming now. Like when was the last time you've seen like a big money rom-com? It's been years since, and I didn't expect that to change with this, especially considering I remember like there was like a take I read where some people were like, at least someone was like with a movie like this, like as a rom-com, as a gay rom-com, there is like the danger of you're only appealing to gay people who like rom-coms. As a result, you're making your audience even more niche. So yeah, so that was a problem. And initially I was like, oh well, that's too bad. But then like Billy Eichner, like his response to it just turned me off completely. It was basically he literally just straight up, straight people didn't show up, which one could argue, well, sure, like LGBTQ plus people account for like what 10% of the population. That's like the number that's been thrown around, but that's still like quite a bit of people, which means they didn't really show up either. So no one did. It's kind of like what happened with like the Charlie's Angels 2019, where people are just like, why aren't straight men showing up? Like because the movie was bombing hard, but turns out women weren't showing up either. So same thing, no one showed up. And just like his tweets and like his response, it's just icky. It's the worst type of response. And yeah, I lost all sympathy for the movie because of that. Now I haven't seen the movie at all, so I'm not gonna make like any judgment calls on it. But yeah, I have no real interest in watching it. It doesn't help that I've never been a fan of rom-coms anyway, so I'm probably never gonna watch it. So yeah, That's Bros. It bombed. Uh, Billy Actor made a big fuss about it, made things worse, and I guess like if you really want like a movie with like non-straight tone to it, like if you really want it to work, I think it would be best to do it with a genre that's actually successful in theaters. Like say, I don't know, like a regular old romance. I mean, like freaking Brokeback Mountain was a success, and that came out in 2005, nearly a decade before same-sex marriage was legalized throughout the entire United States. Right? Like, how can that do well in 2005? And then you got this in 2022 doing as bad as it is. Like, it makes no sense considering how much we've like progressed as a society since 2005. Like, box office wise, it seems like things are going backwards. But, and even like, I guess, well, there was Moonlight that did well and won the Oscar in like a, granted, it won the Oscar in like the worst way imaginable when it was the whole fiasco with that. But even Love Simon, like 2018, that did way better than this because that was a part of a more successful genre. So yeah, the movie died. The end. That's it. Let's move on. Then we got The Good House, another movie where I ask, why was this theatrical? Why do this? Why? It. I predicted it would open, but I think it was under a million. I think it made like 2 million total. It opened with like 800,000, made like 2 million right now. Uh, I don't expect it to go much higher than that at all. So, I mean, it exceeded my expectations more or less. Like, yay, but also not yay because these numbers are still atrocious. So, let's just move on. Okay, last movie. I know this has been very long, but we're at the final movie now. Smile. The big W of September. By far and away. It was Smile, man. It's so interesting. So, Smile, like the whole thing with that is I remember the trailer came out in front of Top Gun Maverick. I didn't expect it at all. It just kind of showed up, and I was like, huh, that's weird. And then, like, the movie actually got, like, a date afterwards, like September 30th. And I was like, okay. Then, like, the trailers, everyone was, like, goofing on the movie. Like, bro, this looks so cringe. It looks terrible. It reminded a lot of people, including me, of the Truth or Dare movie from, like, 2018 from Blumhouse, where they have, like, this supposedly creepy face, but it just looks like a really bad Snapchat filter. Yeah. This looked kind of like that. It gave me those vibes, and I was just like, I don't know about this movie. But then when it came out, reviews were good, audience score was good, and I'm like, okay, this movie might stand a chance. And I predicted it all between like 20 to 25 million. I think my initial prediction before I made my video was like 15, but the preview numbers were stronger than I thought, like 2 million. I was like, okay, it might do a little better than that. So I predicted it would open between like 20 to 25, and that's where it hit 22.6. It finally, after two straight weekends where the number one movie failed to crack 20, this did it. It broke that streak. Because I was thinking that streak's going to stay intact until freaking Halloween ends. But no, this broke the streak. So I had a good opening weekend, and I was thinking it'll probably have average legs. It'll do all right. No, that's not what happened at all. It blew my mind in the best way imaginable. Like my final prediction was like 50 to 60 million total. That's what I thought it would land. It hit 50 million its second weekend. It fell 18%. 18%. That is unheard of in this day and age. That never happens these days. It's a rarity. I mean, like, this number is like the only horror movie that's even that's actually had a better drop than this in like the recent memory was Get Out, and that only fell like 15%. So it's like spectacular territory. But yeah, this that 18% drop shocked the hell out of me. I thought it would drop at least like 40 to 50%. It just mind blowing. And like it fell 32%, even in the face of Halloween Ends, very much direct competition. It showed no fear, and it only fell 32%. And I'd argue it actually hurt Halloween Ends a bit because of that. So it's already made like over 73 million plus. So it's already surpassed my expectations after like 3 weekends. And it's not even over because Halloween hasn't happened yet. It still has the rest of the month to play out. I think it could survive against Black Adam. I think it'll definitely do well the final week of October, considering it's like very much close to Halloween. And who knows? It might. I don't know if how it'll do in November, but at this point, the sky's the limit. I mean, 100 million doesn't even seem that crazy right now, considering how well it's been doing. And like its performance is weirdly on par with like Top Gun Maverick, where it kind of just breaks the scale of how a movie like this is supposed to do. And hilariously, both movies are from Paramount, and I saw the trailer for Smile in front of Top Gun Maverick, so weird. But yeah, Smile, a big W for Paramount, another one. I mean, this is the year of Paramount. It absolutely is. There's no denying it anymore. I mean, after Paws of Fury, I was like, I think it might be game over for Paramount. I think they gave up. This movie proves that is not the case at all. So it's already a big success, massive success, the only big money success of September. And I thought September was going to go the whole month without one. But Smile at the last moment, you know, shocked everyone, especially me. So Smile, congratulations. You're the big winner of September. It's not exactly something I would brag about, but you did extremely well, and you're still doing well in October. So congratulations. And just Paramount, man. Scream 5, Jackass Forever, Lost City, Sonic 2, Top Gun Maverick, and now this, Smile. Man. It definitely won't be a year to forget for Paramount. Definitely not. So, yeah, and that's it for September. It was long, very long, and depressing most weekends. But we ended on a real high with Smile, which is really good. So, yeah, that was the whole month of September. Way too many movies came out. But thankfully in October, we won't have to deal with that. Because, October, I mean, Amsterdam and Lila Crocodile, they've come out. Neither doing very well. Amsterdam, an absolute disaster. Then Halloween Ends is not doing well either. It's kind of underperforming. Then we got Black Adam this weekend. Ticket to Paradise this weekend. Jury's still out whether Black Adam can be like a big money blockbuster. Because Smile has done really good, but it's not like a true like undisputed blockbuster. We haven't had that since July or August. I think the last one was really Bullet Train. And then you got Pray for the Devil, Till, and I think Tar, that's also getting a wide release. And that's how October looks. A lot less crowded, which is great for me. Way less exhausting. But, that's how October looks right now. So, anywho, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous recap videos I've done on the channel, all the ones I've done this year, whether it be like my monthly ones or my summer recaps. You want to watch those, go right ahead. I encourage you to do that. There's also the canceled series where I cover all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I know I covered Honk for Jesus. I covered No Way Home re-release, the more fun stuff version. I covered Barbarian. Um I covered Pearl. I covered See How They Run. I covered the Avatar re-release. I covered On the Come Up. I've covered Moon Age Daydream. I covered Bros, and I covered Smile. I covered all of them. I don't remember the episodes, but I did talk about all of them. So if you want to find them in the playlist, go right ahead. There's now 162 episodes of canceled, which is, you have plenty to choose from, more than enough to choose from. The most recent one I did was about Babylon going from like limited to wide in December. So you want to watch that episode or any other canceled episodes I've made, again, all 162, go right ahead. I encourage it. Binge it from beginning to now. Go do it. There's also box office predictions where I predict box office for movies. This weekend I do Black Adam and Ticket to Paradise. I did prediction videos for all these movies in September. Well, not all of them, on the ones that I covered. So if you want to watch my prediction videos for those, see how well or how terrible I really did, go watch those videos and all the other ones I've done this year. So go do that. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.